Hello, how are you feeling? How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I'm Dell, your deck technician. Today, we'll be going over the commander we talked about in our last video, Isshin, Two Heavens as One. Now, before we move forward, I'd like to say please hit that like button, the subscribe, and comment down below to make sure YouTube knows that this is a good video and gets it in front of more people so our channel can grow. Isshin, Two Heavens as One is a 3/4 human samurai that states, if a creature attacking causes a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. At first glance, you would think this deck would want nothing but attack, so you can get as many triggers as fast as possible. However, because it states a attacking creature specifically and a permanent you control, that means we can have enchantments and artifacts on the field that trigger whenever enemy is attacking us with the creature instead, and that would also trigger twice. Many deck techs of Isshin out there would tell you that you want to be attacking with as many creatures as possible and getting as many triggers as you can in one turn. And honestly, they wouldn't be entirely wrong. However, the way I want to play my deck would be with an Exalted pathway instead. For those of you who don't know what Exalted means, Exalted was a mechanic that came out in Shards of Alara that stated you get +1/+1 for each permanent you control that had Exalted. This was particularly for the colors of Bant, however you pronounce it, which were green, white, and blue. However, there have been some red and black creatures with Exalted that have come out over the years that we can add to our deck and use that instead. We have Knight of Glory and Knight of Infamy, both white and black versions of each other. White of Glory is a 2/1 creature that has protection from black and Exalted, while Knight of Infamy is a 2/1 knight with protection from white. The Sigiled Paladin is a 2/2 knight with first strike and Exalted. Goblin Champion is a 0/1 haste goblin with Exalted, but it costs 1, allowing us to get a turn 1 Exalted out. Pretty sweet. Battle Grace Angel was one of my favorites growing up, and it states it is a flying 4/4 angel that has Exalted, and whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gains lifelink until the end of turn. And the pinnacle creature of Exalted in his deck is the Sublime Archangel. It is a 4/3 flying angel that states it has Exalted and other creatures you control have Exalted. More importantly, if they already have Exalted, this stacks, so they'll have Exalted, meaning it triggers twice per creature without even having Isshin. The enchantment Angelic Benediction has Exalted as well and states whenever a creature you control attacks alone, you may tap target creature. Last but not least, we have Cathedral of War, which is in a land that enters the battlefield tapped, but it has Exalted and taps for a colorless mana, making this one probably the most difficult to get rid of. And with all these Exalted buffs, we gotta find out who's going to be getting these buffs when they decide to attack. And preferably, we want a creature that's going to benefit us additionally when they do attack. Archon of Cruelty was the first creature that came to my mind. It states whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, target opponent sacrifices a creature or planeswalker, loses 3 life, and discards a card. Additionally, you draw a card and gain 3 life. Now, whenever you do this, that ability can trigger separate from the person you're attacking. And with Isshin triggering at a separate time, if you want to be generous, you can attack the person you're going with and trigger each of his abilities on the other 2 players. But more likely, we'll be triggering the same person, making them sacrifice a ton of things and lose a ton of life in addition. With a 6/6 body and flying, those Exalted bonuses are going to make this a very deadly creature. Audacious Thief is a very simple and effective card. It's a 2 human rogue with it states whenever it attacks, draw a card and lose a life. Drawing 2 cards and losing 2 life every turn you attack is sweet. Castellanary Storm and a Ghostband Dragon will get us 2 treasure whenever they attack as long as their commander's on the field. Each of them giving us different benefits from these treasures. Castellanary Storm will gain additional +1/+0 whenever you sacrifice a treasure. Not that we really care about that, but the Ghostband Dragon will get us 2 mana for each one we sack. Being these colors, we can take every bit of ramp we can get. Bringing the Demigod adds a bit of diplomacy to your table and gets you some 1/1 counters to add on other creatures if someone else is attacking. If you're attacking, then you gain cards and 1/1 counters for attacking the strongest players. Twice, mind you. Layla, the Blade Reforged, is going to allow you to exile cards from the top of your library and cast them that turn, giving you essentially pseudo card draw, additionally pumping her up very quickly by giving you 1/1 counters for each card that's been exiled. A Tectonic Giant can get out of control very fast. It states whenever it attacks or becomes a target of a spell or ability, you can do 3 damage to each opponent or exile the 2 cards from your library and cast them until the end of your next turn, allowing you to attack and just do 6 damage to everybody just for attacking before blockers even declared. Now, just because we want to go the Exalted route and attack with one Husky creature doesn't mean we don't recognize the strength in having a bunch of creatures on the field. We need blockers, by the way, because if you got one Husky creature, you still die to Swarm. So we want some kind of creatures in the field. With Adeline, Resplendent Cathar, we'll generate up to 6 human tokens on the field, tapped and attacking our opponents as well. And she has Vigilance, allowing her to attack and defend. With her power being equal to the number of creatures you control in the battlefield, she can be a pretty terrifying presence to be attacking and defending with. And one of my favorite cards, Krenko 10th Street Kingpin. Now, I've put this in every deck tech except Tovalar so far that had red in its colors. And if you don't know what he does, he states whenever he attacks, put a 1/1 counter on him, then create a number of 1/1 goblins equal to Krenko's power. So, just attacking him once, getting him a 1/1 counter, making him a 2/3, getting 2 tokens. Then do it again, putting another 1/1 counter on it and getting 3 tokens for a total of 5. Do not be confused, you don't get 2 1/1 counters and then get 6 goblins because it's 3 power. Yeah, you gotta do them individual steps. Now, ultimately, with all of these creature generators, there are a bunch of ways we could benefit from having all of these creatures. Obviously, with Sublime Archangel that I mentioned earlier, each of these additional creatures will all have Exalted, making whatever creature we do attack with solo that much more devastating. However, we also have Angelic Exaltation and Sigil Valor. Angelic Exaltation states whenever a creature you control attacks alone, it gets +X until the end of the turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. And Sigil Valor is the equipment version of the Angelic Exaltation, stating the equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control whenever it attacks alone. Honestly, the first thing I think about with these creatures is both Krenko and Adeline, particularly Adeline, because Adeline gets more power equal to the number of creatures on the battlefield, but she doesn't increase her toughness. These enchantments and equipments would allow her to survive attacking and not just get ganged up on so easily and destroyed. However, putting it to Krenko can get us a lot of goblins very fast. With Kamigawa Neon Dynasties, there was a bit of a samurai warrior attack alone kind of tribal-ish feel to it, and I kind of wanted to dabble a bit into that to give the deck a bit more flavor. I mean, what's Commander without flavor, you know? So with that, we have Norika Yamazaki, the Poet, and Heiko Yamazaki, the General. Norika Yamazaki, the Poet, is a 3/2 Vigilance Human Samurai that states whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, you may cast target enchantment card from your graveyard this turn. While Heiko Yamazaki, the General, is a 3/3 Trample Human Samurai that states whenever a samurai or warrior you attack alone, you may cast an artifact from your graveyard this turn. These aren't the most stellar and banger abilities, but they're samurai. They all have cool abilities like Vigilance and Trample, and they want us to attack alone. Just for flavor purposes alone, I wanted to add this to the deck, and more often than not, after a board wipe, these guys actually pulled their weight. The Selfless Samurai is a 2/2 Fox Samurai that states whenever a samurai or warrior you control attacks alone, it gains lifelink. Additionally, you can sacrifice it to give another creature you control indestructible. What I like about this card is obviously whenever I want a samurai or warrior to attack alone, I get a benefit, but I can sacrifice it to give any creature indestructible. It doesn't have to be a samurai or a warrior. Now, Sensei Golden Tail was a fun one for me to find without having to dive into Maskwood Nexus. Maskwood Nexus is probably the best choice, but like I said, flavor feels good. The Sensei Golden Tail states it is a 2/1 Fox Samurai with Bushido 1. Bushido states whenever it blocks or becomes blocked, it gets a +1/+1, which is not what we want. We want attacking triggers. However, if we pay 1 in a white and tap it, put a training counter on target creature. That creature gains Bushido 1 and becomes a samurai in addition to its other creature types. You can only play this as a sorcery, meaning we could put this on our Arcana of Cruelty, or put this on our Tectonic Giant, or our Goldspan Dragon, or Brina, and make them samurai as well, gaining additional benefits on top of whatever they do normally. And Ryu Storm's Edge is the samurai that made me even want to think about a samurai tribal deck. It is a 3/3 human samurai with first strike that states whenever a samurai or a warrior you control attacks alone, untap it. If it's the first combat phase of the turn, there's an additional combat phase after this phase. Yes, we could have obviously gone through Aurelia to get that sack tame ability with less restrictions, but like I said, I wanted to add a bit more flavor to this deck. You can easily sub out Ryu for Aurelia or add Aurelias to the deck if you want extra combat, but I really like Ryu Storm's Edge. However, this gets us in transition to our next step, multiple attack triggers. For our additional turns, we have Seize the Day and ways of aggression that comes to mind. Seize the Day states, untap target creature. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. It also has flashback for 3. Ways of Aggression states, untap all creatures that attack this turn. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. It also has Retrace, meaning that we can cast it from a graveyard as long as we discard a land card. Meaning our late game turns, whenever we draw a land, that's not a dead draw. We can use that to get another Ways of Aggression to attack. Editor's note, we can add Aggravated Assault as well. It's an enchantment that states, pay 5 mana, untap all creatures you control. After this main phase, there's an additional combat phase followed by an additional main phase. Activate this only time you can activate a sorcery. Meaning if you got a bunch of mana, you could dump this in and just keep getting extra combat phases in just one turn. And just keep doing that every single turn as well. Now with all this extra attack, let's dial it back and let's look at some of our defensive options as well that would work well with our commander. Now we have Circle of Flame and Lightmine Field to deal damage to any creatures foolish enough to come our way. Circle of Flame deals 1 damage to each creature that isn't flying that's attacking you, doubling it up obviously with our commander. And Lightmine Field, which states whenever 1 or more creatures attack, Lightmine Field deals damage to each of those creatures equal to the number of attacking creatures. This works for us and against us. If we attack, we take damage as well. The benefit here is that our deck benefits from attacking with 1 creature, so we'll only ever take 1. However, if anyone else wants to swarm us, even if they swarm someone else, they're going to lose a bunch of creatures. With Marchesa's Decree and Revenge of the Ravens, we can deal damage to the actual player that decided to attack us. Marchesa's Decree states, when it enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. And whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, that creature's controller loses 1 life. And Revenge of the Raven states whenever 1 or more creatures attack you or a planeswalker you control, that controller loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. It may not make you the monarch, but it may give you some extra lost hit points. And we have some oddball, let's call it deterrences, to keep you from attacking us, of which we have Cunning Rhetoric and Search the Premises. Cunning Rhetoric states whenever an opponent attacks you or a planeswalker you control, exile the top card of that player's library. You may play that card for as long as it remains exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast it. Traditionally, you don't really care about casting anyone else's spells. Most likely those spells do not benefit you in any way. However, they don't have it, and I'm all about that petty life. The sad part is this does not trigger per creature, only per instance of attack. So at most you'll only get 2 instances of this with your commander out in the field. Now, Search the Premises states whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, investigate, which you get a clue token that you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice and draw a card. That's pretty sweet for me. For each creature, I can get 2 clue tokens to draw cards later. Yeah, I'm pretty down with this. And there you have it. This is our Isshin deck that is all focused on single attacking while trying to maximize defense as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If there were anything in here that I have forgotten or something that you would change, let me know in the comment section down below. I read them all and I try to respond back as fast as I possibly can. I do have a full-time job as well. But the next deck we shall be working on will be Tatsunari Toad Rider. I will be trying to get as many of these commanders out as possible before the next set of, what is it called? New Streets of Capenna comes out. But I am looking at all the spoilers. If you are interested in me covering spoilers and my thoughts on the cards, let me know. Because once they're fully released, I can do a several, episode series about it if that's something that interests you. I'd hate to put something out there that people just don't care about. But anyhow, again, comment down below what you think and what you're looking for in the next deck tech. I'll see you guys around. Thanks for being here. Love you all. Have a good night. Bye.